Hello and welcome to this edition of Central Point. This one is on monopolistic competition. So first a quick recap. We've already covered perfect competition, and there we learned that the demand curve is perfectly elastic or flat. And then we covered monopoly, and there we learned that the demand curve is steeply sloped because they are the market, so you got a downward slope on that demand curve. And now we're moving towards a monopolistically competitive firm, and their demand curve is kind of in between the other two. It's pretty flat, but it's not perfectly flat. So let's get to that idea of this gently downward sloped demand curve. Why does it take that shape? Okay, so why does it look like that? Well, the firm faces many competitors, maybe not thousands like perfect competition, but many, dozens, maybe even 100, and as such, there are a lot of alternatives. Many other competitors can offer the service that you're offering. So imagine a scenario where you're charging $190 for this good and you own a monopolistically competitive firm. You'd hit your demand curve here and maybe provide 5 units, but you're thinking about raising prices up to say $210. Well, in this case, since there's so many other competitors, your customers, at least a lot of them, would probably leave, and then only one would stick around and pay that higher price. The rest of them would go to one of your competitors and pay $190 or something less. So a small change in price is a big change in quantity demand, and that means we have this highly elastic or very flat demand curve. So that's what gives it that shape. So now let's conduct our analysis when we determine what the profit maximizing rate of output is. And like any firm we've studied so far, we use MR equals MC. You find that point right there, which is MR equals MC. Right, from there you go down to quantity. This profit maximizing rate of output is going to be 4 units, and then from there you go up to the demand curve just like we did with Monopoly, and we determine the price. In this case, maybe it's $200. So the first question on a test might be, how much do you charge if you're this monopolistically competitive firm? And the answer there is $200. Second question might be, what do they cost you? Well, they cost you around $100 each, so that means you get to keep the difference. In this case, it's $400. So if asked what's the economic profit, it would be that whole area there. And we've done this now for perfect competition and for monopoly. It's very much the same for monopolistically competitive firms. You get to keep $100, that's the height of that box, per unit, and you get to do that 4 times, so that's going to be $400. That's your economic profit. Here's where monopolistically competitive firms differ a little bit, and it's kind of like perfectly competitive firms. We know there are few barriers to entry. There are some, but they're not nearly as unsurmountable as a monopoly. So other firms are going to see that profit and get in. And when other firms do that, they're going to take some of your market away from you. So when they enter, they'll take your customers, and therefore the demand for your particular goods will fall. Yet other firms might enter again, and the demand curve is going to fall again, etc. And this process is going to keep happening as that profit box gets smaller and smaller. So if this is your monopolistically competitive firm, you might be looking at this. MR equals MC right there. You'd produce 4 units. You'd go up to price here and charge $200. They cost you $100 each, so you'd make that nice profit of $400. Other firms would see this and enter the market. That's going to lower your demand curve, so watch how this lowers. Now it's dropped, right, because other firms are taking part of your market, so you still do the same analysis. MR equals MC right there. You produce this many units. Whoops. Now it's less than 4, so maybe that's 3.5. You go up to the demand curve again, but notice how your profit is smaller. Your profit box is being attacked, for lack of a better term, or smaller, yet it's still there, so other firms might enter, and that keeps happening until you get here. The profit box has been squeezed shut is how I like to describe that. Note in monopolistic competition, it's not the very bottom of the average total cost curve. That would be over here. It's slightly higher than that, but there's still this pressure for prices to be driven downward by competition. So you're this monopolistically competitive firm, and you know if you earn a bunch of economic profit, eventually you're looking at this, and you want to slow this process down as much as you can. So how do you go about slowing that process down? You spend a lot of time differentiating your product and telling people why it's special. And we see this all the time in commercials, right? Fast food chains tell us that their French fries are the best in the world. Convenience stores try to offer service that's very convenient. It's nearly on every corner. Some firms try to connect themselves with a rock star or some other person that's famous to separate themselves from competition. Yet other firms try to tell you they're safe. Volvo comes to mind here. Firms that are safe might highlight that aspect of their product. or they might offer a higher level of service, carrying your groceries out to the car, or in this case, carrying your luggage up to the hotel room. All of these firms are trying to set themselves apart. That's called product differentiation. So firms that are monopolistically competitive spend a lot of time differentiating their product and advertising that to their consumers.